What happens when a CEO orders a coffee at his own café and the barista doesn't even flinch when everything goes wrong? It was a Thursday morning when Oliver Eaves pulled his hoodie tighter and stepped into the 11th location of his café chain, a small corner spot in downtown Cleveland. The bell above the door jingled. No one looked up. He'd bought the company 7 years ago from a retired couple who built it from a food truck. 13 stores now, scattered across Ohio. It had grown fast. Too fast, maybe. He used to know every barista by name. Now he barely knew the managers. Reports from this location had looked fine: average sales, steady foot traffic. Nothing alarming, but something had been bugging him about it. Last month, a district manager told him the store had high turnover and some staff attitude issues. When Oliver asked for specifics, the guy brushed it off. Just typical customer service stuff, he'd said. But Oliver hated relying on secondhand info, so he shaved the beard, wore glasses instead of contacts, and threw on an old flannel. No one here had ever met him before. He only visited the Cleveland stores once, years ago, and most of the old staff had rotated out since then. He joined the short line, glanced around. The place was clean but didn't feel warm. No music, no greetings. A young woman behind the counter, probably in her 20s, was wiping the espresso machine like it had personally insulted her. Her name tag read, Talia. Next, she said without looking up. Oliver stepped forward. Hey, morning, can I get a black coffee? Medium. Talia punched the order in fast. That'll be $2.85. He handed her a 5. She gave him change with no eye contact, then turned away to pour the coffee. Her movements were sharp, efficient. Here, she said, sliding the cup toward him without pausing. Before he could respond, a sharp voice cut in behind him. Hi, I ordered a decaf oat latte like 10 minutes ago and it's not here. A woman in a business suit stood near the pickup counter, tapping her phone impatiently. Her tone was clipped, clearly annoyed. Talia turned, not missing a beat. Yeah, I remember. We ran out of oat milk. I told the guy in the back to restock it. Well, no one told me. I've been standing here. Talia leaned forward slightly. I understand. I should have let you know. I'm sorry about that. I can refund it or make something else for you right now. The woman blinked. You owe okay? She looked thrown off by the lack of attitude. I guess. Almond milk's fine. Got it. Talia turned and made the drink herself, fast and focused. She handed it over with a short, here you go, and the woman left without another word. Oliver sat down at a two-top in the corner and sipped his coffee. It was decent, not amazing, but what stuck with him wasn't the drink, it was how Talia handled that complaint. Calm, direct, no excuses. And no fake cheer either. She didn't sugarcoat anything, but she wasn't rude. It wasn't the polished customer service he used to teach. It was real. Maybe too real. 15 minutes passed. Another customer walked in this time, an older man with a cane. He struggled with the door and no one helped him. Talia glanced up, then walked from behind the counter and held it open for him. Oliver watched closely as she greeted him. Take your time, sir. You need help with anything? He waved her off politely, but she waited until he reached the counter before stepping back into position. That's when a tall guy in a black apron came out from the back, yawning. His name tag said Rick. He barely glanced around before muttering, any breaks yet? Nope, Talia said dryly. Still waiting on Lex to show up. She laid again. Talia only nodded. Rick walked over to the pastry case, pulled out a muffin, and started eating it without paying. Talia didn't say anything. Oliver saw her mouth tighten slightly. He stood up and walked back to the counter. Excuse me, he said, lifting his cup slightly. This is a little weak. Any way I could get a fresh one? Talia didn't hesitate. Yeah, I'll make another. Rick, still chewing, muttered, It's the same coffee, man. Talia shot him a look. Let me take care of it, Rick. Rick shrugged and wandered back into the kitchen. She poured a new coffee, handed it over. Sorry about that. We're short-staffed today. No problem, Oliver said, watching her. You always this calm when stuff goes sideways. She gave him a tired smile. Try working here 6 months and not be, he grinned. Fair enough. A couple more customers came in. Talia handled them fast, no fuss. Rick didn't reappear. Oliver stayed for another 20 minutes watching. It became clear that Talia was running the whole front by herself and doing it well. But there was something else. She looked tired, not just physically. Worn down, he left the store without saying anything more. But his mind was racing. This wasn't just a visit, he needed to come back. And next time, he wouldn't just be ordering coffee, he'd be changing things. Starting with whoever was letting this place run on autopilot, Saturday morning, Oliver pulled into the back alley behind the café just before 6. The sky was still gray, streets slick from an early drizzle. He parked far from the delivery entrance and walked the rest of the way. No branded hoodie, no special treatment. Just a guy reporting for his first day. He'd arranged the whole thing through a friend who managed a staffing agency. A fake resume with basic barista training, no real references, and a new name mark. The manager at this location, according to internal files, was a guy named Brent. He hadn't been there Thursday, which hadn't surprised Oliver. The schedule he'd reviewed showed Brent only working swing shifts, often leaving the morning crew to fend for themselves. The back door was cracked open. A single bulb flickered above a concrete hallway that led to the storage shelves and walk-in cooler. No sign of anyone else. He stepped inside. The air smelled faintly of soaked cardboard and burnt toast. From the front, he heard a voice call out, "If you're not a delivery guy, grab an apron and shut that door." He walked past the stacked boxes and into the prep area. Talia was behind the counter again, tying her hair back with a rubber band. A second-line cook, a tall, wiry kid, maybe 19, bent over a tray of frozen breakfast sandwiches. "You Mark?" Talia asked without turning. "Yeah, cool. You're with me on bar." "Rick's not in till 10 and Lex called out again." "That's Andre on prep. Don't touch the ovens unless you want third-degree burns, and if you see a leak under the sink, just throw a towel over it. Brent's not coming in till noon. You used alla Marzocco before," he nodded. "Good. Grinder's slow, steam wand spits if you don't bleed it first. Don't pour the regular house blend after 9, it sits too long, and wipe the counter after every third drink, not second, not fourth, third." Andre glanced up. "She's not kidding." "I figured." Talia finally looked at him. Her eyes had dark circles beneath them, and she moved with the kind of precision only muscle memory could produce. She handed him an apron from a hook. "You'll get a login code when Brent shows. Till then, don't ring anything up. Just make." The first rush hit by 6:30. Construction workers, nurses coming off night shifts, a few college kids with early labs. Orders piled up fast, and Oliver found himself doing more than pouring drinks. He wiped counters, restocked lids, cleared tables when no one else could. Talia didn't stop moving. She ran the register, called out names, steamed milk, and still managed to catch a spill near the fridge before anyone slipped. She wasn't chatty, but she gave quick pointers when to double strain matcha, where to stash extra stirras, and never raised her voice. By 8, he'd hit a rhythm. That's when Brent walked in. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a trimmed beard and mirrored sunglasses pushed up on his head. He didn't greet anyone, just walked straight to the back and came out 5 minutes later eating half a bagel. "Who's the new guy?" Brent asked, nodding toward Oliver. Talia didn't look up. "Mark, staffing temp." Brent turned to Oliver. "You pour fast, fast enough. Don't screw anything up. I've got a meeting with the district lead later." Brent didn't do anything for the next half hour except lean against the counter and scroll through his phone. Twice, Talia asked him to check inventory on the syrup shelf. He didn't move. At 9:15, a young woman walked in, probably in high school, wearing a coat 2 sizes too big. She stood near the register, hands in her pockets. Talia looked up. "Morning, what can I get you?" The girl hesitated. "Just a small hot chocolate." As Talia rang it in, the girl fished through her coat and pulled out a handful of coins. She counted them slowly, whispering under her breath. Oliver watched silently. The girl was short by 50 cents. Talia glanced toward Brent. "We're short on the order." Brent didn't look up. "Then cancel it." Talia looked back at the girl. "Hey, it's fine, we'll cover it this time." The girl's face lit up. "Really?" "Yeah, grab a seat, I'll bring it to you." Brent turned. "That's not policy. You want me to explain to a 16-year-old we're tossing her drink because she's 50 cents short? No, I want you to follow the rules." Talia didn't flinch. "Then write that one down and post it." Brent stared at her. Oliver broke the silence. "I'll toss a buck in the tip jar." "We're good." Brent looked at him. "You don't even work here." "Pretty sure I do today." Brent muttered something under his breath and walked to the back again. Talia handed over the drink without saying another word. Later, during a lull, Oliver followed Brent into the storage room under the pretense of grabbing paper towels. "You always leave the floor during rushes?" Oliver asked, voice low. Brent looked up from his phone. "You're temporary. That means you don't ask questions. I'm just wondering why the morning lead's doing triple coverage while you're back here checking Instagram." Brent stepped closer. "You're pushing it, and you're not doing your job." Brent stared at him, then turned and walked deeper into the supply racks. "You don't know how this place runs." Oliver didn't respond. By noon, the cafe was packed, orders backed up, espresso machine hissing nonstop. Rick showed up late again, no apology. He headed straight to the back and took nearly 20 minutes to come out, yawning. Talia called over her shoulder, "If you're clocked in, start pulling shots. Otherwise, go home." Rick rolled his eyes and started moving slowly, dragging his feet between steps. He knocked over a water pitcher while reaching for a cup stack and left it there. Oliver grabbed a towel and cleaned it up. A customer at the counter, a woman maybe in her 40s, waited for her drink, arms crossed. Rick handed her a cappuccino without a lid. She frowned. "I asked for non-dairy." Rick stared at the cup. "It's just regular milk." "It's fine. I'm lactose intolerant." "Then don't drink it." Talia spun around. "Rick," he held up his hands. "What? We're busy." Talia took the cup, dumped it, and made a fresh one herself. The woman muttered, "Unbelievable," and walked out as soon as she got it. Oliver turned to Rick. "You always treat people like that," Rick scoffed. "You're new, you'll get it." Oliver looked at Talia. She was gripping the milk pitcher tighter than necessary. He walked back to the prep sink, breathing through his nose. He'd seen enough. At 2:30, he walked into the back, pulled off his apron, and waited for Brent to finish his call. "Done playing Barista?" Brent asked. Oliver didn't answer. He waited until Brent looked up. "My name's not Mark. It's Oliver Eaves. I own this company." Brent blinked. "You what?" "I've been here since 6 this morning, and what I saw today, it doesn't just violate our service standards, it violates basic decency." Brent opened his mouth, but Oliver cut him off. "You've ignored staff requests, let your assistant manager show up late, and walked past a serious customer complaint without blinking. You let one employee run the floor while you hid in storage." Brent's face darkened. "You can't just show up here and I can." "And I did." Oliver stepped aside as Talia entered the back room. Her eyes widened slightly, but she didn't say a word. Oliver turned to her. "You didn't know who I was, but you showed up early, ran this place like it was your own, and handled every crisis without backup." Talia swallowed hard. "I just didn't want the place to fall apart. I know, and it shouldn't have been on you." He turned back to Brent. "You're done here, effective immediately." Brent's jaw clenched, but he didn't argue. He left without another word. Oliver looked at Talia. "I need you to stay on." "We'll talk next week about a new role." Talia nodded slowly. "Okay." As Oliver walked back through the cafe, Rick stood by the espresso machine watching. "You're next if you keep treating people like that," Oliver said quietly. Rick said nothing. Oliver stepped outside into the afternoon sun, phone already in hand. There were things to fix, and not just in Cleveland. By Monday morning, word had spread. Quietly, but fast enough that when Oliver stepped into the Cleveland cafe again, this time through the front door, in his usual clothes, every employee behind the counter froze briefly, then kept moving like they hadn't. He didn't want a big scene. Not yet. He nodded at Talia, who was prepping the till, and she nodded back once, tight-lipped. Rick was at the bar, tamping espresso with too much force, and Andre was wiping the pastry case without being asked. The shift felt tense. Not chaotic, just tight, like everyone was waiting for something to snap. Oliver walked past the counter and into the small office behind the prep area. District Manager Riley was already there, leaning against the desk with a stack of printed schedules in hand. She looked up when he walked in. "You're early," she said. "So are you," Oliver replied, shutting the door behind him. She exhaled through her nose. "I heard about Friday. I figured you would." He didn't sit. "I want to know how long those patterns have been happening, staff being overburdened, management unresponsive, inventory mismanaged. And I want specifics, not summaries." Riley didn't flinch. "I had concerns, but Brent always had an explanation. Anytime I stopped in, the store looked decent." Staff didn't complain directly. Did you ever pull a shift here? No, then you didn't see it. She looked down at the pages in her hand. I didn't think it was that bad. It was worse than bad, Oliver said. It was unsustainable. He opened the door without another word. She followed him out. The morning rush was fading. A few booths were occupied, but the line had cleared. Talia had stepped off the floor and was organizing backstock by the fridge. Oliver approached the counter. Rick immediately busied himself at the sink. You have a minute, Oliver asked. Talia nodded and followed him to the back, into the office. I'm promoting you to interim store lead, he said without sitting. Effective today, she blinked. I'm not asking if you want the title. I'm asking if you're willing to run this place while we rebuild it. She hesitated. I'll need at least 2 more people during mornings, and someone has to take inventory seriously. You'll get both. Riley's reallocating budget this week. I want you to give her a list of the top 5 fixes you need equipment or staffing, not fluff. What actually helps you do your job better? Talia nodded slowly. All right, he tilted his head. You're not surprised, I'm tired, she said, not shocked. Before she left the office, he added, one more thing, you'll have hiring power. If someone's not carrying their weight, I trust you to deal with it. When she stepped back out, Rick was leaning on the counter again, talking to Andre. Neither of them noticed Oliver watching from the doorway. I'm not busting my back for this place, Rick was saying. He thinks he can just walk in and scare people. Andre didn't respond. I'm serious, Rick went on. I'll give it a week before he's back in his cushy office and we're stuck cleaning up the same mess. Oliver stepped forward. Rick spotted him and straightened. Break room, Oliver said simply. Rick followed without protest. Inside, Oliver shut the door and folded his arms. You've been late 3 shifts in a row. You've argued with customers. You've ignored direct instructions. Why are you still here? Rick leaned against the wall. I've been here longer than most. I know the system. That's not an answer. I do my job. You do the parts that fit your mood, Oliver said. You ignore what doesn't. That's not how this works. I didn't know who you were, Rick said. If I'd known, that's the problem, Oliver interrupted. You shouldn't have to know who's watching to do your job right. Rick pushed off the wall. I've got rent. I've got a kid. Then you should have been taking this seriously. He opened the door and pointed. You're done. Pack up. Rick stared at him for a second too long, then walked out. No argument, no apology. Oliver returned to the counter. Andre was still there, now restocking lids without being told. You good to cover bar while Talia trains someone new this week? Oliver asked. Andre looked up. Yeah. I can handle that. Keep your head down, do your work, and you'll move up faster than you think. Andre nodded. By Wednesday, the shifts looked different. Riley had pulled in a part-timer from another location, and Talia had already interviewed 2 new applicants. Neither had been hired, yet she was being cautious. Oliver respected that. She wasn't trying to patch holes with duct tape. As the week went on, Oliver stayed close. Not hovering, but observing. He rotated through 3 other stores during the day, but always returned to Cleveland by mid-afternoon. He didn't announce himself anymore. He'd just walk in, grab a stool, and watch. On Thursday, just past 4, something unexpected happened. A man in a business suit stepped in, holding a clipboard and a coffee from another shop. He looked around, then approached the counter. Is the manager in? Talia, now wearing a black apron instead of the standard gray, looked up from the register. That's me, he smiled politely. I'm with the leasing company. We're doing a walkthrough of all tenant properties this quarter. Talia nodded. You need access to the back, just the hallway and the HVAC unit. Oliver stood up from his spot near the window and walked over. I'll join you, the man blinked. Your owner, Oliver said. Let's go. The inspection took about 15 minutes. When it ended, Oliver returned to the café floor to find Talia talking to a customer, an older man who had been coming in twice this week already. The man had a small notebook, and Talia was helping him spell something from the menu. When she finished, Oliver waited until she returned behind the bar. You always help with notes like that. He's writing a short story, she said. Keeps ordering the same drink so he can sit here longer. Good excuse, Oliver said. He's got a better work ethic than Rick ever did. Oliver let out a short laugh. You planning to stay long-term? Talia wiped her hands on a towel. Depends. On, If the people above me actually care about what happens down here, he nodded. Fair. The next day, Oliver called a meeting. Riley, Talia, Andre, two new hires still in onboarding, and the assistant district manager gathered in the back office. No one stood. Oliver leaned against the filing cabinet. This store was headed for a cliff, he said. Not because the people here didn't care, but because no one was listening to them. He looked at each face. That changes now, he turned to Talia. You're officially store manager, full benefits, hiring bonus. You'll lead the hiring process for your assistant. Talia nodded once firmly. To the rest of you, this is what happens when you do your job with integrity. You get noticed. And if you don't last here, he stepped aside. Talia, you've got the floor, she didn't hesitate. We're not here to coast, she said. We're going to run this place clean, fast, and fair. If you're here to collect a check and hide behind excuses, it won't work. But if you show up, do your part, and treat people with respect, I'll have your back. There was a stillness in the room. Not fear, clarity. Oliver left shortly after. He didn't say goodbye, he didn't need to. The right people were in place now. And for the first time in months, that little cafe on the corner finally felt like it had a future again. The following Monday, Oliver returned to the Cleveland Cafe just after sunrise, not to inspect, but to observe. He took no notes. He asked no questions. He sat by the far window with a plain ceramic mug and a quiet presence. The store wasn't perfect, but it was holding together better than he'd seen in weeks. Behind the bar, Andre moved through drink orders with steady timing. He didn't talk much, but he didn't need to. The new hire, a sharp-eyed woman named Dana with a background in hotel service, followed his cues well. She was still finding her rhythm, but she had control of her station. No fumbling, no wasted steps. Talia had just finished walking the floor, checking the pastry stock and glancing discreetly at the till without interrupting the cashier's flow. She paused at Oliver's table. We're still short one on the morning shift, she said in a low voice. He nodded. Riley approved the extra hours. Yeah, I posted the listing 2 days ago, interviewing someone tomorrow who worked at our Euclid store last year, left on good terms. Oliver set his mug down. You get everything you asked for. Almost. We're still waiting on the new grinder. The old one's holding on, but the motor's heating up more than it should. Let me make a call. She looked at him carefully. You don't have to fix everything yourself. I do when someone else should have fixed it months ago. A young man in a faded denim jacket stepped inside, hands buried deep in his pockets. He glanced toward the counter, eyes scanning the menu. Talia watched for a moment, then crossed the floor. Need help? He looked up, hesitating. Yeah, I've never been here before. What's strong but not super bitter? Try the dark roast with a splash of oat. I'll comp it. First-timers get one on the house, he blinked. Seriously, just don't make it your last visit. Oliver watched the exchange unfold with a subtle shift in his posture. That wasn't just good service, that was ownership. By mid-morning, the store had settled into a manageable pace. Oliver moved toward the back, stepping into the office where Riley was reviewing district-wide scheduling gaps. She glanced up. Columbus is asking to borrow one of Cleveland's part-time baristas again. No, he said immediately. They're short for a week. They've been short for 3 months. If they want help, they need to fix their retention, not pull from a location that just stabilized. She sat back. Fair. He pointed to the whiteboard behind her. How are we doing on cross-location training? Started last Friday. Akron's team is sending 2 leads next week to shadow here. Talia's agreed to mentor one of them. He raised an eyebrow. She volunteered. She said if she didn't do it, they'd end up training on the wrong habits. He exhaled through his nose. Smart. She shifted tone. You want to talk about Rick? Heard he's trying to get rehired through a different location. His jaw tightened. Not happening. There's pressure from HR. He didn't violate a formal policy, just poor fit, technically. He dismissed a customer's dietary restriction to their face. He endangered someone's health because he didn't feel like remaking a drink. That's not a fit issue, she nodded. Understood. Oliver left the office and stepped back onto the floor. The storefront had filled again slightly. A couple of regulars sat near the window, quiet conversation over laptops and half-eaten pastries. The young man from earlier was now seated with a notebook and a pen, scribbling something while sipping slowly. Talia caught Oliver's eye and motioned toward the window. "Guy says he's writing lyrics," she said, keeping her voice even. Asked if he could stay through lunch as long as he keeps ordering, Oliver shrugged. "If he's not bothering anyone, let him be. He's not. Seems like he just needed a place that didn't treat him like a transaction." He looked at her. "That's what we're supposed to be." She didn't respond right away. "Then, it's not what we were." He watched her turn and head back to the bar, sliding into a conversation with Dana about backup syrup storage. The two spoke briefly, Dana pointing toward the shelf above the sink, and Talia nodding before moving to adjust it herself. By 3 o'clock, Oliver returned to the office, this time with a list in hand his own. Riley was back, now joined by the director of operations for the region, a woman named Marissa who'd flown in that morning. She greeted him with a firm handshake. "I've gone through the store's last year of incident reports," she said. "There's a pattern across 3 locations: mismanagement, high turnover, unresolved customer complaints. Cleveland's just the one that broke open first." Oliver handed her his list. "Then we start with every person who let those complaints sit unanswered." Her eyes scanned the page. "You want 5 managers reassigned. I want 3 of them removed. The other 2 get 1 quarter to fix their stores or they're gone. No coaching plans, no soft resets." "We're done protecting people who treat the floor like a burden," Riley added. "That's going to cause ripple effects." "Good," Oliver said. "Let it ripple." Marissa folded the list. "Anything else?" "I want every district manager required to work 2 floor shifts per month. No admin work, no laptop time. Behind the counter, taking orders, clearing tables." She raised an eyebrow. "That'll get pushback. If they can't run a register, they shouldn't be leading anyone who does." He left the office without waiting for agreement. That part was already decided. Back in the café, Talia was pulling a shot for a woman with a toddler strapped to her chest. The baby was reaching toward the pastry case, grunting with interest. Talia leaned down and said something neither Oliver nor the mother could hear. Whatever it was made the woman laugh, and the baby quieted. Dana slid a napkin across to the toddler. It had a simple smiley face drawn in black Sharpie. Oliver approached the counter. "How's she doing so far?" Talia didn't look up. "Better than I expected." "Picks things up fast." Dana caught the tail end of the exchange. "I used to manage at a place that didn't train anyone. You either figured it out or you quit." "Why'd you leave?" Oliver asked. She paused. "I got tired of feeling disposable." He nodded once. "You're not." She returned to her station without another word. A few minutes later, the cafe door opened and a man in a navy utility jacket stepped inside, glancing around uncertainly. He carried a clipboard and wore a faded baseball cap. Talia approached him calmly. "You here for the grinder install?" He nodded. "You're the manager." She extended her hand. "Talia, you're late," he grimaced. "Traffic from Youngstown." She motioned toward the back. "Come on. Let's get it done before rush hits again." Oliver followed them briefly, watching as she gestured toward the counter space, explaining workflow and spacing. She knew exactly where she wanted the new equipment and why. The technician listened, nodded, and rolled up his sleeves. By 5, the grinder was humming quietly, the espresso station reorganized, and the floor spotless despite the steady traffic. Talia sat at a back table, notebook open, half a sandwich untouched beside her. Oliver approached. "You look like someone who hasn't had a break in 6 hours. I had a moment around 2, ate half a granola bar." He nodded toward the sandwich. "That won't cut it. I'm used to it. I'd rather you weren't." She leaned back slightly. "You know, when I started here, I didn't plan to stay longer than 3 weeks. What changed? I stopped waiting for someone else to fix it." He sat across from her. "You think it's fixed now?" "No. I think we finally stopped lying to ourselves about what was broken." Oliver looked toward the front of the cafe. The evening crew had just walked in. Andre was training one of them on the updated register flow. Dana was explaining how to prioritize drink tickets when there was a backup. He turned back to Talia. "What do you need next?" She didn't answer right away. "Then, time, and people who don't just want a job, people who care. You'll get both." He stood and left her to finish her sandwich. That evening, as the sun dipped below the Cleveland skyline, Oliver exited the cafe without ceremony. No farewell, no speech. just a glance back through the window at a store that had finally begun to remember what it was meant to be a place where people mattered. And this time, it wasn't just the customers.